All right, so back to Genesis. Today we're going to do the genealogies and Genesis 6, 1 through 4, because they all tie in together. And I know most everyone hears genealogies and you instantly start tuning out, but I'm going to tell you that there's a lot of interesting stuff hidden in these genealogies. You just have to actually look. So we're going to Genesis. So I'm going to start in chapter 4, and this is right after Cain had killed Abel and has now been sent out to wander the world.
Oh, when he got the mark 7 times over.
Didn't he get the 7? He got the mark. Okay, he got the mark. Lamech says, we're going to get to it.
Okay.
So Cain had a mark that said, hey, nobody can kill me unless and if you do, you got to get the punishment of God. Let's just start in chapter 4, verse 15. So the Lord said to him, therefore, whoever kills Cain, vengeance will be taken on him sevenfold. Oh, you're right about the 7. And the Lord appointed a sign for Cain, so that no one finding him would slay him. Then Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain had relations with his wife, and she conceived and gave birth to Enoch.
Different Enoch?
Yes, a different Enoch. And he built a city. He called the name of the city Enoch after the name of his son. Now to Enoch was born Irad, and Irad became the father of Mahujael. And Mahujael, and I know I'm not saying that right,
The name.
became the father of Methuselah. That's a different guy.
It's different, yes. Yes.
Dude, these names look so alike, but different.
Yeah, you're right. It's
Methuselah.
Yeah.
And Methuselah became the father of Lamech. Lamech took to himself 2 wives. The name of one was Adam, and the name of the other Zillah. And Ada gave birth to Jabal. And he was the father of those who dwell in the tents and have livestock. His brother's name was Jubal, and he was the father of all those who play the lyre and the pipe. As for Zillah, she also gave birth to Tubal-Cain, the forger of all implements of bronze and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said to his wife, Ada and Zillah, listen to my voice, you wives of Lamech. Give heed to my speech, for I have killed a man for wounding me, and a boy for striking me. If Cain is avenged sevenfold, then Lamech 77-fold. Okay, well, we'll just stop there for a second.
Where exactly did he kill somebody, though? This Lamech fellow. Like, it didn't say anything about him killing nobody.
We'll get to that.
Okay, so they're just jumping ahead because of Jewish right. I get
Well, they're not jumping ahead in the Genesis account. They're jumping ahead in the sense that this stuff isn't detailed in the Bible. So in order to answer some of these questions, we're going to have to go to
That's why
what's called the Apocrypha, and we're going to discuss that more. But before we even go there,
can I ask a question really quick? Who wants another sausage? Do you want another one? Okay. Do you want another one, Anthony?
I'm okay for right now.
And you don't, right?
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I have.
all right, so let's go back to this. Besides what you just said about Lamech, what else seems really weird about this Cain? Let's remember, everyone was destroyed except for Noah's children.
Music, and that seems like the only real thing that's unique here.
Music, the instruments, and the shepherd.
Yeah.
Seems like a really weird thing to include, right?
And I mean the bronze thing.
And the bronze.
Sorry,
How many years did you, when the flood ended and they were out with the land began? When this happened? How many years?
So this is definitely pre-flood.
Oh, that's right, pre-flood. Okay.
So
Okay, never mind. One question.
no, it's a perfectly valid question. It really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
At all. Why would we care? That's something to remember. We're going to get to. That's why I noticed there's clues in here that make us go, what? There's stuff missing. Okay, so to get back to the actual Bible before we dive into the other things, starting in 425 and then continuing on, Adam had relations with his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth. For she said, God has appointed me another offspring in place of Abel, because Cain killed him. To Seth, to him also a son was born. He called his name Enoch. Then men began to call upon the name of the Lord. That also seems like a really weird phrase to be putting in there. Well, I thought Adam and Seth and stuff were already calling.
Yeah.
Okay. Chapter 5, verse 1. I promise I'm going to answer these questions. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day when God created man, he made him in the likeness of God. He created them male and female, and he blessed them and named them man in the day that they were created. When Adam had lived 130 years, he became the father of a son in his own likeness, according to his image, and named him Seth. So Seth is in his likeness, But Cain isn't. Very interesting. Then the days of Adam after he became the father of Seth were 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. So I'm going to stop right there. Notice how that was, notice the number 930 years. What did God say? The day that you eat of this fruit, you shall die. If a day equals 1,000 years, was he right? Yeah. He died before 1,000 years. Seth lived 105 years and became the father of Enoch. There's that name. Then Seth lived 807 years after he became the father of Enoch, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. Enoch lived 90 years and he became the father of Canon. Then Enoch lived 815 years after he became the father of Canon, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Enoch were 905 years, and he died. Canon lived 70 years and became the father of Mahalalel. Then Canon lived 840 years after he became the father of Mahalalel, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Canon were 910 years, and he died. Mahalalel lived 65 years and became the father of Jared. Then Mahalalel lived 830 years, and he became the father of Jared. After he became the father of Jared, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Mahalalel were 895 years, and he died. Jared lived 162 years and became the father of Enoch. Here's the Enoch that we think about. Jared lived 800 years after he became the father of Enoch and had other sons and daughters.
Yeah.
520. So all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. Enoch lived 65 years and he became the father of Methuselah. Then Enoch walked with God 300 years after he became the father of Methuselah, and he had other sons. So all the days of Enoch were 365. Enoch walked with God, and he was not. Took him. Methuselah lived 187 years and became the father of Lamech. And Methuselah lived 782 years and became the father of Lamech. He had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Methuselah were 969 years after he died. That is the longest recorded human ever to live. Lamech lived 182 years and became the father of Seth.
Yeah, Methuselah.
Now he called his name Noah, saying, "This one will give us our work, and from the toil of our hands arising on which the Lord has cursed." Then Lamech lived 595 years, father of Noah, and he had other sons and daughters. So all the days of Lamech, 777 years, and died. Noah lived 500 years, and Noah became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So I'm going to stop there.
I'm noticing nobody lives over 1,000.
Nobody lives over 1,000. So nobody lives over a decade.
That's kind of back to where he said, "You surely will die on this day."
That's right. Very interesting. The other thing is, if you translate the names there in the Seth line, starting with Adam, you get a prophecy about what's going on. Every name is prophetic in meaning. If you want, you can look up the line. It's really fun. I'm not going to do it right now in the interest of time and not getting too bogged down in other weeds. But the interesting thing is Methuselah name basically translates to "after him destruction comes" or something like that. According to Jubilees, actually said out the flood comes the year he was deep down. If you look at Jewish tradition, the flood comes 1 week, which is a traditional period for him after he dies. Let's go back to this is the longest person. Like God had some mercy. Even before he decided to wipe everything out, predicted it, and then he made sure that for the longest he possibly could before he said, "All right, I've had it."
Where are we? All right.
Go ahead.
He's finished 5. That's no way to look at it 5.
Or all something will cover. But we're seeing interest as well. We also notice that name overlapping helps show that this was really all these people were speaking the same language. Is there any other questions or comments before we start really getting into Genesis 6:4? And then I know you're super. Anyone have anything to say or add?
No, like a day is 1,000 years to God. What about, some of these people that like 900 years? Would that be 900 years as we know a year?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, obviously, they must have aged slower because somebody at 900 now would be.
Yes.
I mean,
there's theories about this. One of the ones is when God did the flood, he pierced the water barrier around the earth, and because that was actually protecting us from the sun's harmful rays, which is what caused the mutation of DNA, which causes us to die faster. That's one theory. That's what I think is probably fast.
It broke the first minute.
Yeah.
There's all that, if Adam and Eve, your DNA breed to more mutations, and that's going to start. Why does that take blood? There's argue.
I just kind of figured that animate the the whole way, basically. So if she stopped having children, it would only be a few years. And then, so I figured God just longer and just go down the agent, go down the process.
Yep. Although the
Yep.
children of Noah had to repopulate the earth as well.
They did too. But that was a long time.
It did a long time. It wasn't that they really started retiring people lived.
Yeah, maybe.
That's
I
right.
just figured it was possible.
Yeah.
So you got anything to say there, Scott, or are you already brain dead and zoned out into all those words?
Yeah, I'm just absorbing. I'll probably have to watch it again.
That's perfectly fine. I do have this chart that if anyone wants to look at that shows the timelines and everything, welcome to look at it. You can look at it afterwards or just let me know and I can pull it out, whatever. But it's pretty cool to see the timelines. And it becomes even more important when we start to get into the timeline getting to Moses. But what I can say is if you map out all these timelines, realistically, there's only 3 people that had to interact to get from Adam to Noah because of the overlapping. So the story of what happened in the garden, Adam could have told to one of his descendants or all of his descendants, and then they passed on. And it's not a lot of corruption going on. It'd be like, how hard would it be for a grandparent to make sure that his grandchild knows what really happened when they were?
Yeah, that always would have known,
Yeah, I remember on an actual historical scale. People couldn't afford it. It was very expensive. I looked up how much it would have taken to row it today with the amount of people we did it. That's like a $5,000 document today.
Yep.
Well, like everybody, John, they probably talked to Mary, his mother, about his birth. I mean, the Bible wasn't in it. They looked it up.
That's right. But it was easy enough that everything was written.
Wow, people just,
The conversation, we kind of tend to forget that to the modern society.
yeah.
And, since so many people were illiterate, I think everything they had pretty good numbers.
Yeah, even in the days of Sumeria, writing was left to the higher ups. So it's like, regardless, they could have do whatever they want. So I believe the word of mouth actually preserved it in its purity at the end of the day.
Yes, and obviously, if you go to the store to buy it, you had to expect them to memorize. So people were really worth it. Unlike now, we're rewriting it down. We don't have to remember. So, do we have anything else about the genealogy? Try to read Genesis 6:1-4.
I'll read it. Yeah, I'll read that. 1-4, you said?
Yes, Genesis 6:4. Actually, go 1-5.
Now it came about when men began to multiply in the land. Daughters were the sons of God, the daughters of men, and they took wives from whoever they chose. Then the Lord said, "Scribe the man forever, because he is nevertheless days shall be 120 years." The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. 5.
Yep.
Then the Lord saw the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually.
All right.
So he did the 120 years before Babylon. So this is pre-flood. They decided to cut it off.
Yes, but it doesn't start really coming back until then.
He set up the decree and did the wipeout, which I see how that works.
Yeah.
There's also some interesting parallels if you take that 120 years and map it out to like 120 generations and stuff like that that are coming right up to the end. Interesting.
So we're 120 generations of people at this point.
120 generations.
I feel like there's so much more. I don't know how to do this, so I can't even.
I believe it's
fact check that.
I believe it's
That's a lot.
120 generations. It's 120 something. I don't remember what it was, but that's kind of going along.
I don't.
So
Well, that's just me. Yeah, sorry.
no, that's perfectly fine. It's good to fact check me, and I started that, so it's my own fault. So first off, let's go into this. So the Nephilim is talking about giants. That's what the word translates to.
No,
And blood drinks.
the Nephilim, aren't they half fallen angel?
So that's what we're going to do right now. Perfect. So there's 2 competing theories about this. The sons of God came into the daughters of man. The common theory you hear now, which wasn't popularized until the late Dark Ages, is that the sons of man were the Seth line, and the sons of God were the Seth line, and the sons of man were the daughters of man were the Cain line. Wow, I can talk. So, anyways, so what they're saying is that the children that came from Seth and down, the male children looked at the female children from Cain's line and went, "Oh, you're pretty. I want you." And they had these children, which for somehow became giants and mighty men of old.
Okay, well,
That's the theory.
no, I know what we subscribe to, but I didn't know that was the other theory that humans made these.
That's the other theory. And quite frankly, that doesn't sit well for me. And it sounds like we're trying to strip the supernatural out of the Bible.
Honestly, that'd be more supernatural. How the heck is a human going to create that genome?
Well,
Like, you see what I mean? God's human beings creating stuff. You'd have to put an outside. Okay, well, you get to that.
Well, what they're saying there is that the giants aren't really giants, and this is just some weird Hebrew tradition in the words and
Goliath definitely was like 9 feet tall.
I understand.
No, I know. I just find it funny.
So, in the interest of letting the Bible interpret itself, there's a couple other places where the sons of God are used, but in the Bible, some of them are still confusing on what it means. So we're going to jump to the places that are really clear. Can somebody go to Job chapter 1, verse 6? And someone else go to Job chapter 2, verse 1. And then I need Job 38, verse 7.
I'll start on 6 for Job.
1-6?
Yes.
Make sure you're speaking up.
Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. And the Lord said to Satan, "From where do you come?"
Okay, so does that sound like the sons of God can be the descendants of Seth?
No. He
No.
didn't have them in this particular
They
instance.
didn't have it. Humans don't get to go to heaven like that.
And honestly, I just learned something new last night about Jesus unlocking the gates. No, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together. No human seen heaven before Abraham's bosom. They only seen it after. Nobody ever seen actual heaven. They might have seen the Father's face and got that treatment. They never actually seen the gates of like heaven open, and they never got to go inside it until Jesus actually did a sacrifice. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. He literally gave us the way to get into heaven. We weren't even able to touch it in any way, shape, or form.
Correct.
It was cool. Sorry.
That is cool. All right, Laura, you got 2-1, right?
No, I have 38.
Oh, you have 38. So who has 2-1?
Nobody, but I can look it up.
Okay, Job 2, chapter 2, verse 1.
Job 2:1.
Yep.
It's before Psalms, right? Job, Psalms.
Don't you have the tabs on your Bible?
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay.
On the other day, the angels came to present themselves to the Lord, and Satan also came with them to present himself before him.
Okay, so that term that was translated angels there is the same as the term that's translated sons of God in your version, by the way.
Interesting.
So,
they say it in
angels-
6 in this one, and then in 2 so they make it a clear point.
So it's very clear that sons of God is referring to angels, right?
Yes.
Let's just read the 38:7 just to really drive the point home.
What?
Oh, wait, sorry.
Yeah,
My bad, I got confused.
that's okay, no problem. When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy.
Again, that's a scene in heaven. Sons of God means angels, clearly.
Very clearly.
I mean,
Yes.
so anytime you see that and you hear somebody interpret it, oh, it means people, you gotta be, and we're talking Old Testament. You gotta stop and be like, no, you're using what's called poor exegesis. You're not following the rules of the Bible to interpret it. You're making stuff up because you don't want to believe in the supernatural. That's the problem. In the New Testament, I believe it's Paul who wrote, unto you is given the right to be called sons of God. So that means we're replacing these angels.
Some of them
In
are
the
probably like,
future.
yes, we'll do it. Some of them got to be still able to stay in the court.
And it also says, don't you know that you're going to judge angels? We're replacing them because of the failures that they have. Only the people who truly follow Jesus get to replace the angels in the future.
That's why I get them good old glorified Baptists.
That's right. That's why we get the glorified one. And you can argue with me all day long, and I'm going to tell you what I can pretty much guarantee that you have no argument that isn't twisting scripture. I'm not twisting scripture. This is very clear. Anybody can look this up with ease.
And it's very clear.
Correct. So,
Unless they want to see something in the New Testament, we can go to Hebrews.
right.
Now, you see what I mean? You know exactly what I'm talking about, where Jesus was anointed among the sons of God, and he was proclaimed as the Son of Man and God, and he was anointed above all the other angels, and they were made about him.
So look at this worldview, that what you just quoted. Think about it. He's anointed, which means the glorified, over all the sons of God, over all the humans that follow him.
And then God literally looked at him and called him. Like I remember, that was one of the coolest verses I've ever seen ever, because God the Father literally, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to do the Trinity. Physically called the Son the same thing he is.
Yes, that's
God,
right.
which is pretty fire. I love that Hebrews verse ever since I found it, because it puts stuff like this into a bigger perspective.
And that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to do Genesis, is so much of modern church teaching strips out the supernatural. And then you read through it and you get confused. But all of a sudden, when you get the real viewpoint, all of a sudden, like the New Testament just starts making so much sense.
And it opens up a whole new portal of beauty.
Right. And this actually segues perfectly into the point I was going to make. The people who wrote the Bible, specifically the New Testament, are basically all first century Jews, with the exception of Luke and Acts. Which
He was a Gentile, I forgot.
Besides that.
No, I forget myself. That he was just like yo, what's up? You're witnessing the glamour of it all.
So in their mind, the supernatural was real and included in this. Not only was that, the Old Testament canon, as we call it, is what's considered the inspired word of God. God basically physically wrote it through his prophets. What we call the Apocrypha.
Was man writing it off of their own assumption?
No, it's not man writing it.
Well, some of it is.
It's kind of like a history.
There is some Apocrypha that has to go into the trash.
Correct. I'm talking about
the good stuff, like the stuff that makes a little bit more sense than like the secret book of James, where Jesus took his disciples in a room and straight said, "Don't pray, don't fast. It's going to hurt you instead of helping. I'm telling you the truth."
Right.
Remember that? I don't know if you ever read that part.
Yeah. So what I'm referring to is what's included in the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament.
Yes.
And that includes First Enoch, Jubilees, Jasher, and a couple other ones, Maccabees and stuff like that. So we're not supposed to get our theology from it.
But they're, like you said, history books.
But they're history books. So what we can do is we can say, okay, I can use this as a historical account that fills in the gaps of the God breed. And that's what they would do, which is why you see these apocryphal literature books quoted and referenced in the New Testament. They're authoritative, but they're not God. If there's a different discrepancy, Bible comes first.
Okay. I forget they quote Jude and they quote Enoch. Oh, they quoted Enoch and Jude and stuff like that.
Paul references it quite frequently.
Do they ever reference Maccabees or Jubilee?
The ideas of Jubilee are referenced, but the clearest one is the book of First Enoch. So the way I would say it, the analogy I would use is, let's say the Bible is somebody like a general in World War II. You're going to take his account above anything written in a history book. But you could still trust the history book.
I see where the fine line of it goes there.
So, and this is the viewpoint I had. As a matter of fact, this is the viewpoint that even the early Protestants had.
Really?
Yes. If we look at Martin Luther and people like that, they had the same view of these books.
Okay.
We got away from it as we became more.
Didn't the Council at Nicaea make this decision?
Well, again, that was the canon.
Oh, the canonization of the Bible. Yeah, I forget.
Versus this. So if we look at that, we got away from these and we're told these are horrible, don't read them. The same time we reached the age of enlightenment, where all of a sudden we're like, oh, we're smart enough.
I guess if it was that bad, he wouldn't have mentioned.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? If they're quoting it directly, it has to have something in it that's worth it.
Right. So
yeah, they do quote the book of Enoch, so
so it has to have, because Jesus and Paul would not quote it if there wasn't something valuable to look at.
That's correct.
He wouldn't put a lie out there like a full but I see what you mean. He's not God breathing it, he's referencing it. So they're gonna know what he's referencing and he knows they're gonna read it. I see what you mean.
And then we're reading it.
Yes.
And it's also why this is found in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yes.
So anytime you read it, if you decide to read one of those, take it with a bit of a grain of salt.
Enoch 2 needs to go in the trash, though.
I'm talking about first.
No, I know. I'm just saying Enoch 2 is absolutely garbage. That one's the bad one. That's I don't know where that came from, but.
Is that Enoch 2, Enoch 3?
There's two, second Enoch and third Enoch, or Enoch 2 and Enoch 3. They're very, very weird.
Extremely.
They're mystical.
Yeah.
Right.
Mystic, they're Gnostic.
Yeah, we don't want the mysticism, but we want the history. So to go back to this whole thing is this discussion of the Nephilim is talking about the sons, the angels procreating with humans and creating these giants, which, as the Bible frequently does, it gives you a couple sentences about something and no way notates, hey, this is a big deal. It's like, oh, okay, cool. And you move on with your life. But when you dig, you're like, wait a second. So I happen to have
This dude.
mapped out the passages.
He said, I just happen to have it. Right?
I have it, and I mapped out the passages that actually align with this. And so before I do that, have I lost anybody, or is everybody following here?
Following.
And following.
Very thorough.
You good there,
We've been
Scott?
having this conversation.
I follow you through the forest of trees. How's that?
That works for me.
Okay. Good.
I understand that this is completely different from any worldview you probably ever considered.
New information processing right now. Yes.
Yes. So I'm going to start with the book of Enoch. We're going to talk about the Watchers, as they call them. I'm only going to read certain sections that apply here, and then we're going to read a little bit of Jubilees and a little bit of Jashir. And this is going to complete the picture of what happened. Okay, so first Enoch chapter 4 through 6. And again, 6 through 8. I really need to read my own handwriting. And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied that in those days were born to them beautiful and attractive daughters. And the messengers, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, come, let's choose wives for ourselves from among the children of men, and begat children for ourselves. And Semedjazah, who was their leader, said to them, indeed, I fear that you will not agree to this deed, and I alone will have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Remember, Jesus said, do not swear or make oaths, let your yes be yes, let your no be no.
Yes.
I think you might be referring to this.
It's a possibility.
There, yeah. Then they all swore together and bound them. And they were 200 in all who decided in the days of Jared. Remember, we read that in genealogy.
Yes.
On the summit of Mount Hermon, and they call it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations on it. I'm not going to read the names because I don't feel like it. And all the others took wives to themselves together with them and chose one for himself, and they began to go into them and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they became pregnant, and they bore great giants whose height was, and then that's kind of cut off here, so in the actual documents we have. But what I have right here is 3,000 ells. I don't know what that means. Who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. So doesn't the Bible tell us in Noah not to drink blood?
Most definitely.
Does it?
Yes, it does.
It does, yeah.
Part of the Noah covenant.
Oh, okay.
This is why.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember that.
This is why.
They love drinking human blood.
That's right.
Gross.
And then they also began to sin against birds, beasts, and reptiles and fish. Oh, what's that talking about? Drinking blood, eating them, and what about crossbreeding them to create chimera?
What's that?
For example, would be a minotaur.
That's real?
Kind of sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A what?
Minotaur.
Okay.
Isn't that half human?
That's half human, half bull.
That's not real.
Wait, half.
To be fair, who knows? God completely wiped out the earth. He hated everything he was looking at. There was a chance this stuff could have been Roman, and he was like, this is absolutely ridiculous what they just did with this place.
So
He's like, you corrupted every single thing I made, everything.
Go back to Genesis. It says, and these were the mighty men of old that existed before and after.
And God was not pleased.
So wouldn't these stories be maintained?
And that would make sense why he had him bring the animals on the boat, too, to repopulate and redo the animals.
That's right.
Everything got destroyed.
Everything had to get.
But
That's
you didn't
right.
bring any of the, we just brought the real animals, you want to call them.
Yes, and he brought more than two a pair. I looked that up,
Centaurs
too. He definitely had more than two.
Well,
But
they were consuming some and then sacrificed too.
Yep.
Yes.
So-
And then to repopulate. Yeah, but I found it funny because the two thing, people are like, well, how could he bring two of the same? And I'm like, no, it clearly says, yeah, it's a few more than that with each.
Because he's God.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
But it
Exactly.
says in the Bible, because
Right.
God is still, he's a reasonable, and
Yeah.
he does things that aren't, like, he does things that are great, but he's not about to make a male animal. Because if you got, like, you see what I'm saying? He's going to have multiples to
Yeah.
repopulate, but everybody thinks there's only two.
Actually, though, it's male and female for everything except for the clean animals and sacrificial animals, in which case there were six.
Oh,
Six
that's
sets.
cool.
Actually, 7 sets, sorry.
And those were the ones he was eating and sacrificing.
Those would actually be, well, they didn't eat till afterwards.
So he was just,
But
the
those-
sacrifices were still needed from whatever sin he was.
Oh, they didn't eat no meat?
They didn't eat meat till after Noah.
That's right. Yeah. So
Till
that's
after.
what they said they were sending my.
So there were 7 sets of all the clean ones. How many people were on the boat? Anyways, Patty, what it comes out to is there was enough to sacrifice for everyone, and then enough left of those to retire. I might have my numbers a little.
Oh, that's fine.
Hey,
Patty, shush.
I did my job.
And let's go back to what it said.
Yeah.
Taught them charms and enhancements, the cutting of roots,
What's that?
and made them
Gardening,
acquainted with
Gardening?
plants. Doesn't this sound much like, I don't know, pharmaceuticals? Specifically more like recreational drugs?
It really is like that, though.
That's it.
Pharmakeia is a real thing.
Yep.
If
What's that?
Everybody disguises it as science, and they even do it with the weed
Yeah.
now. They enhance it scientifically in ways of almost like, you ever hear of alchemy?
Yeah.
They pretty much do alchemy on these drugs, weed. The only thing they do, even alcohol at times, but the only thing they do is they enhance its potency and its addictive natures to give people even more addicted and to get them even higher, and they produce it at a cheaper cost. That's what these scientists are doing. Like they take like marijuana, just for instance, just like 5-6 years ago was at an all-time high of like 20 to 21% THC. Now it's hitting up to 39 to 40%, which is causing people brain issues. The edibles now and the concentrates are pushing over 80 to 90, which is causing like teenagers who
80
smoke
and
it.
90?
There's teenagers who smoke it and overdose now. People are actually overdosing on weed in situations because this is what they
I thought
want to
you
do.
couldn't overdose.
Now you can.
Well, so the
Really?
problem was
Yes, it's getting that serious out here.
that
They are
you
just
can't
altering the
overdose
hell out of this drug.
is based upon the natural amount of THC.
Now it's unnatural.
Now you can get so much at once that you can bypass all the limiting
So
factors.
what do you
of
mean
it.
by unnatural? They're making it like,
way more potent than it's supposed to be.
Genetic
So-
engineering?
Yes, this is why I say it's like alchemy, and they do this with the drugs that they give us over the counter. They do this with everything out here that we take that's pharmaceutical. And the reason why they're doing this is right now, New York, like for instance, on the weed scale, just became legal, and it's already a multi-million-dollar company because people are dead addicted. They
Yeah.
keep running to this altered marijuana, and it's way more addictive at its cusp. Now it's actually getting people addicted like a real drug because the amount of THC in it and compounds are causing people to have severe withdrawals, like me at times.
So,
It's kind of crazy how it was from when I was a kid, dude. It's
So we're
real
do-
life bad.
did
So
you
we're
end
doing
up
the same
talking to
thing.
Adam and all about this stuff?
Yes.
Remember I told you a while ago?
I told Adam all about it.
Okay.
so let's go back, come back a little bit here. So we're doing the same thing again, aren't we? All right. So now I'm going to read chapter 8. And Azel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates and make known to them the metals of the earth and craft the working of them and bracelets and ornaments and the use of antimony and the beautifying of islands and all kinds of costly stones and the coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornications, and they were led astray and became corrupt in all of their ways. Samjaza taught enchantments and root cuttings. Armas, the resolving of enchantments. Bak, whatever, taught astrology. I can't pronounce that name. Kabal, the constellations. Ezequiel, the knowledge of the clouds. Araquel, the signs of the earth. Shemashel, the signs of the sun, the course of the moon. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. Remember how we talked about those weird passages in Cain's line?
Yes,
Don't they kind of line up with this?
yes.
There's
Azazel. Now, is that like, it's like the leader of these?
Of the Watchers, of the fallen
Watchers.
angels. Yep. It's also the name of where the sacrificial goat was sent.
So
In,
these would be
the
considered
tabernacle times.
the disembodied spirits?
No, these are the big boys.
These are the ones that get chained up in the bottomless in the bottom of the pit.
These are unadulterated. Like the Nephilim would be like the head. These are straight up the ones that got cast out of heaven.
So they're not the Nephilim,
They're the angelic fathers of the Nephilim.
right.
And these would be the ones that people would have considered gods.
Yes, these would be the ones considered
You're
gods.
saying the Watchers.
Yes, and the Titans, if you go to Greek, would be the Nephilim,
And they
all
got
that,
bound too.
and all
they
that
tried
got,
rebelling against their father.
and they all got wiped out. And then you got your second set of gods, lower level gods. And this is pretty much
So
across all
is this
mythology.
like where the religion of Buddhism and
Well, Buddhism, I mean, that's a real man. He did what he could. He didn't know the way. He gave grace to Jesus. That was just a man, and people think he was a god. They believe he
Yeah.
ascended to
like
God.
Muslims,
Yeah.
Buddhism
Yes.
and all that. And
Yeah.
is there
Siddhartha
some-
Gautama was just a human being.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some of that in this, yes.
Smart man, not God.
So if you look, this is more like the origins of like pantheism, or the so you see like the
The
Greek,
Pantheon.
What's that?
the pantheon of gods. So this
What's
is
that?
You're talking about the Roman gods or whatever.
the Roman gods, the Greek gods,
Like
etc.,
any
etc.
set
Oh.
of gods, pretty much. They always have like 10 or more gods. They have a higher god, a lower god that's worshipped above them, and a bunch of gods that control like wind, fire, and salt and weird
So
crap.
those would be Watchers.
Yes.
So the highest ones are or the second tier are the Watchers, and then the next tier is going to be discussed more later, but it's the angels in charge of the 70 nations.
Question.
Yes. Go ahead.
This is Book of Enoch. Are you tying this back into Genesis? Are
This
you
is-
going to Jubilee?
This is directly tied back into what was said in the Genesis genealogies. This is the explanation for why those weird verses are there.
So but there's a reason why this is not in the gospel. Amen.
The reason for that is it's not God breathed in the sense that God wrote it. It's like a God adjacent almost, in the sense that, for example, if I was to go to, you were in a war, right? I mean, I know you're a soldier, a Marine. If I was to like say, oh, I read this in a history book, and I go back to you, and you could correct me on it, what you would say would be true, but the history book's probably right, generally speaking.
Okay.
This is the history books that expound. The Bible is the eyewitness. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I thought these books were omitted from the Bible on purpose because some of it contradicted because you guys are just talking about there's gods in this book, right? I've never read the Book of Enoch, but I also was told that don't be, there's stuff out there you should not be reading.
There is stuff out there, but this is not that. That is, so the stuff that's out there that you shouldn't be reading is not included in what was
And
called the
Jesus
secular-
directly himself, saying what Paul quoted Enoch.
and Jude. Yes, this book was directly quoted in the Bible. So it's kind of like the way to expand and get the better worldview. When I'm talking about gods, I'm talking about what humankind has viewed as gods, not God as we call it. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm trying to figure out, because I'm trying to figure out why we even in Enoch. Because is this to prove what the Bible's saying
This
about
is
the
to-
history of it?
This is to go through and understand the history of it, so we can better understand the worldview of what the people who wrote the Bible was, which allows us to better understand the Bible itself.
And this is where all those crazy gods like Baal and stuff would have came from, because like it was obviously operating, and these things were operating over people through the sacrifices. So the gods had to come from somewhere that they were portraying themselves as.
Right. I'm not saying that they're equal. What I'm saying is that they are fallen,
Yes, they're the
Angels.
Elohims compared to the Elohim. They're just spirit beings.
that God allowed to do his thing, and he's going to judge, and we're going to judge.
And this was expressed in there's a verse that you can read. It's about the divine council.
Yeah, there's a few passages here that actually refer to a lot of this in thought. So it's a way to actually understand this. And a lot of this stuff is referenced in the New Testament.
Yes.
It's just, so does that make sense, Scott?
Yeah, it does make sense. I've just always been taught, and no offense, I've been taught that these are the books that you have to worry about, the ones that line up with the Bible, but you know what I mean? But I also have I don't know this book, so I don't really know it. But I know that there's stuff in it, and I've heard that's not that book, the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, another one that you mentioned earlier. I think we're going to go into that. Am I correct?
We are going to get into that. So what I'm going to tell you straight up is the books that we're reading from are included in what's called the Septuagint,
Okay.
which these books are not were never considered to be equivalent to the Bible, but they were considered important enough that the same people that translated the Hebrew Bible into Greek so that people could read it in Jesus' time also translated these.
Also changed. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Makes
Same
sense.
people. Yeah. Okay.
We can't, I don't believe, and this again, we go to Martin Luther and all these greats in time.
Right.
We see them all saying that these books are important. They're just not the same as the Bible.
Gotcha.
And during the Enlightenment age, we stripped these books completely away because all of a sudden there's all this supernatural stuff that doesn't fit with the Enlightenment worldview that we modernly live in. So if you go even into Paul's writing where he talks about there's power, our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against powers, principalities, et cetera, et cetera.
Spirits, right?
This is the stuff that he's talking about.
Right. He's talking about the spirit world, the spirit realm.
Which is what we're reading about, is the collision of the spirit world into the human world before the flood. And it explains why the flood had to happen. The flood didn't happen because people were so bad. The flood happened because people's genetics were completely destroyed by these Nephilim and their descendants. And then if you go even into why was Israel and the nation of Israel instructed to wipe out all the people in the land of Canaan? It's because the same kind of thing had happened again, and that's where they were living. That's why certain groups had to be wiped out, because they had this new corrupted DNA. And we're going to see all this again in the end times, this corruption of the human genome. We're no longer pure human. We're going to be corrupted. We're going to have, quote unquote, alien DNA put into us.
And they're already starting with the little nano chips they're trying to put in people's heads that they're developing. That's going to make you already partially not human.
Exactly. And then I expect to see alien DNA is going to be used to make us immortal, and that's going to be the mark of the beast. That's
Or
what I'm
they'll turn off
expecting.
the death gene
Well,
in
it's
general.
like, what about the COVID shot? That was a gene mortifier. It morphs the genes.
It doesn't morph the genes, it morphs how the genes are read,
Yes.
which is a little different. So the DNA is still good, it just changes how the things are read.
Yeah.
But before we get too much into like talking about the mark of the beast or anything like that, let's remember there's no way you're going to be confused and accidentally take the mark of the beast.
That's good.
Yeah.
God will
Yeah,
not
you
let
don't
that.
know about it. Yeah. It's getting kind of, if we get to the really good stuff, I don't want to miss the good stuff.
Yes,
It's getting kind of late.
we're almost there. The next things are pretty easy here. Or if you want, I could just summarize what is said in these.
This is too interesting. I want
And I completely understand. When I first found it, I was fascinated. I can't tell you how many hours I lost reading this.
Oh, it wasn't like there was just giants. There was a reason why they were
Yeah.
here. People obviously learned a whole bunch of stuff from these giants.
Yeah.
And where would they have came from?
there's
Probably something higher up
Something,
than
yeah.
a human being. So this
Yeah.
would,
we're talking,
regardless of the gap being filled or not, there was some crazy, heinous, wild human
Was there any
genes
parallels with
being
the
completely
Anunnaki?
altered back then.
Yes, the
Yeah.
Anunnaki is another phrase for the same thing.
And this is
Okay.
why God had
We're
to do
the
what he had to
Watchers.
do and why we're
Yeah.
so pure and why
Anunnaki and
it's
the Watchers
Yeah.
same.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on all the which parallels are which, because I'm
Yeah,
not
we're just-
familiar enough with all the different ancient religions to tell you for sure. But they all have the same origin,
Yeah.
pre-flood and Babel. And this is the stuff with it. So if we continue on through Enoch, through Jubilees also details this, but it talks about how God sent these angels to teach human things in the day, in the timing. If you look at the
and
timing,
that's what they were supposed to do according to the divine council verse.
if you look at the timing
They were supposed to.
of that, it's a little bit before the Watchers actually came and incurred. And if you also look at the timing with the names between the Cain line and the Seth line, what you see is they came there, and then what's most likely happened is the Cain line started to worship them as gods, lower G gods. Maybe does that make it clear if I say lower G gods there, Scott?
Yeah. Well,
They started to worship them, and then this caused them to start to twist it and morph what they were supposed to teach into this other stuff to give them power. And eventually they're like, hey, let's have children because this will be awesome.
And this is why, like, stuff like the prophets of Baal had enough, excuse my language, enough balls to literally go up against the God, Yahweh himself, with 450 deep. They thought in their heart, whatever fallen angel Baal was more powerful than God because he was physically here in the flesh, whatever God there is, and didn't care about none of that. He was just in full form, doing crazy stuff, and they're like, well, this has to be glory. He's definitely got to be able to take Yahweh, and that's why he did what he did, Elijah. He's like, I only have me. We're going to do the same exact thing, and I'm going to show you your God literally can't do anything compared to mine.
And the other thing,
he couldn't.
the other thing
Not a
is
thing.
most of those ancient religions also taught about this higher creator God that always got like corrupted or had to bow down to his creation.
Yes.
Does this
They've
not
always been
remind
bad.
us of what Satan wants?
Yeah.
He wants everything. It's what he did with Jesus to get God to bow down to him.
And
He
this is why
actually
he was
had
so harsh in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
This wasn't just he had to make a point. I am powerful. I will destroy and burn this place up, but I'm not going to. I'm going to give y'all an opportunity.
And then the other thing to take out of from these, which is completely consistent with ancient Jewish thought in the first century, demons, what we call demons, what the Bible refers to demons, are not fallen angels. They're the locked up, they're the dead spirits of these Nephilim. Because they are hybrids, they can't go to heaven and they're not going to hell. They are locked and cursed to wander the earth.
And that's why they want to possess people so bad, so they can have some kind of relief until their day of judgment. Because they don't like being in a void. As Jesus said in one of the verses, when you cast them out, they go to a watery void.
A waterless desert.
A waterless desert. So it's like they go to this place that they hate and they feel anguish there. So the only thing they can feel relief from is by inhibiting a host. It gives them a body, something to feel. They're literally looking for the joy that was thrown away and they don't even know what it is. They're trying to find life. They're trying to touch, feel, have something they can do, a vessel to operate in. Because other than that, they're just always in between this line.
Yeah. You mean inhabiting a host, and you're not inhibiting?
Yeah,
Inhabiting, sorry.
Yeah, it's
sorry.
okay.
My apologies.
They're both real words, but they mean something different. So that can have, yeah, I heard you, man.
So that's what that all means, and that's what that all comes from. And that's what you get when you actually read these literature and take it the way the Jews in the first century would have thought, which were the ones that wrote the New Testament. When you read through the Old Testament with this in mind, all of a sudden things make a lot more sense. Those arguments that people like to make. Oh, your God is evil because he told to kill off all men, women, and children for certain tribes.
But these men, women, and children were throwing babies into fires because this fallen angel they thought was God told them to.
And they also had fallen angel DNA in them.
Yes, and
Yeah.
they can't be allowed to
So
reproduce.
we had to purge the corruption from the genetic line because only humans can be saved by Jesus.
That's it.
And
The
at
only
this
way
point, I'm going to stop the recording. We're talking, but I do want to stop the recording before we get too far and I got to my house.
I know it sounds crazy, but when you really put it into perspective, it makes more sense.
It really, yeah. We should also, we talked a little bit about the half man, half human, half bull, whatever. Greek and Roman mythology has a lot of